What if I told you that the way you've been exploring your own body for all these years, the way you hold yourself, the rhythm you've kept, the way you seek that final moment, could now be subtly impacting your well-being? After 60, the things that once felt so good can gradually diminish your sensitivity, put a strain on your circulation, and even affect how you feel about yourself, often without you even realizing it. I've seen men lose that sense of joy, not because they've aged, but because nobody ever told them they needed to adapt. I'm Dr. Anya Sharma, and I'm here to share my experience as a physician specializing in the health and wellness of men like you. For over 30 years, I've been guiding men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond to stay healthy, feel confident in their bodies, and maintain a strong connection with themselves. I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm here to provide you with reliable information and practical solutions that truly work. Here's the key thing to remember. The habits you developed when you were younger, the ones you've relied on for so long, can now be working against you. It's not your fault, it's simply a matter of how our bodies change. Your body has evolved, and the way you approach self-pleasure needs to evolve along with it. In our conversation today, I'm going to show you precisely how to adjust your routine so that it becomes safer, more comfortable, and even more satisfying than you might have thought possible after 60. You'll learn how to care for your skin, enhance your sensitivity, and maintain healthy erections. And I'll also share when it's time to reach out to a doctor. Please stay with me until the end, because I'm going to reveal a surprising habit related to self-touch that can quietly affect your prostate health. It's something that many men don't learn about until it's too late. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you won't miss any of my future advice tailored specifically for men's health. And if you find this video helpful, please type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 and tell me how I can make these videos even better for you. Now, let's begin with the most important thing every man over 60 needs to understand before making any changes: how your body actually changes as you get older. Because once you understand what's happening on the inside, every adjustment you make will feel more intuitive, more effective, and far more rewarding. First, let's talk about understanding how your body changes after 60. When I'm sitting with a patient in his 60s or 70s, I can almost always see a familiar frustration in his eyes before he even says a word. He'll lean in, lower his voice, and confide in me, saying something like, "Doctor, it just doesn't feel the same anymore." And here's the first thing I tell him: your body hasn't failed you. It has simply evolved. The changes you're experiencing are part of a natural process, not a sign that you've lost your masculinity or your ability to experience pleasure. After 60, testosterone levels, the hormone that plays a key role in desire, mood, and performance, tend to gradually decrease. That doesn't mean you won't feel aroused. It simply means that arousal might not come as spontaneously as it used to. You might need more time, more physical contact, or even just a different mental space to get there. At the same time, the blood vessels that supply the penis may lose some of their flexibility. They might not open up quite as quickly or as fully as they did in previous decades. This is why erections can take longer to develop or may feel less firm, particularly when you're alone and relaxed. And then there's the nervous system. The nerve endings that once sent signals instantly may now send them more gently. Sensations still arrive, but more slowly, more subtly, requiring a little more patience to fully appreciate them. When you combine all of these changes, the habits you developed in your 20s and 30s, the grip, the speed, the single-minded focus on reaching climax, may no longer be serving you well. In fact, they might even be working against you, leaving you feeling frustrated, disconnected, or wondering if something is wrong. But nothing is wrong. What's happening is that your body is inviting you to embrace a new approach. And when you learn these new ways, you can unlock a level of satisfaction that can be deeper and more fulfilling than anything you've experienced before. So now that you understand the changes that are taking place, let's talk about the common mistakes that many men make, mistakes that can quietly diminish your pleasure, and how to avoid each and every one of them. Second, let's discuss the 5 most common mistakes men over 60 make. Over the years, I've listened to countless men describe their routines in the same way they might describe a favorite old tool. I've been doing it this way for 40 years. Document. Why change what works? The truth is, what worked before may not only be less effective now, but it can also work against you in ways you don't notice until the damage has already been done. These mistakes are common, and I see them every week in my practice. The first is using the same grip strength you've always used. In your younger years, a firm hold might have been the quickest path to climax. But after 60, thinner skin and more delicate blood vessels make that same pressure potentially harmful. Over time, it can bruise small vessels, numb nerve endings, and actually reduce your ability to respond. The second mistake is going too fast too soon. Your nervous system isn't firing at the same rapid pace it once did. When you start out quickly, your brain doesn't have enough time to fully register each sensation. You might think you're building pleasure, but in reality, you're rushing right past it. The third mistake is skipping lubrication. Too many men think that lube is unnecessary when they're alone. But after 60, reduced testosterone often means less natural moisture in the skin. Friction without lubrication can lead to tiny tears, irritation, and soreness that can linger for a while. The fourth mistake is forcing climax, as if reaching the finish line as quickly as possible is the only measure of success. Pushing for orgasm under pressure triggers stress hormones, which can actually shut down your ability to enjoy the moment. And the fifth mistake is ignoring what your body is telling you. Many men operate on autopilot, repeating the same motions without pausing to notice whether they still feel good. But when you learn to respond to your body instead of simply repeating old habits, you begin to reconnect in a deeper way. If you recognize yourself in any of these scenarios, you're not alone. The good news is that each of these habits can be replaced with something better. And in the next part, I'll walk you through the exact steps of a safer, more satisfying technique designed specifically for the man you are today. Third, let's explore a safe, adapted technique after 60. When a man in his 60s sits in my office and tells me that self-pleasure has become frustrating, I often see a common pattern. He's still using the approach that worked decades ago. Same pace, same pressure, same sequence of touch. And he's wondering why it doesn't feel as satisfying anymore. The truth is, after 60, your body asks for something different. It asks for patience, for gentleness, and for a kind of mindful presence that you might never have given it before. The first step is to choose your time wisely. Give yourself a window when you won't be rushed or interrupted, at least 15 to 20 minutes where your mind can let go of the day. If your nervous system feels rushed or on guard, your body will never fully open to pleasure. Set the environment in a way that signals relaxation. That might mean dimming the lights, putting on some soft music, or even warming the room slightly. Small comforts tell your brain, I'm safe, I can let go. Before you touch yourself, take 5 slow breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. This is more than just a formality. It slows your heart rate, opens up blood vessels, and prepares your body to receive sensation. Apply lubricant early, not as an afterthought. Gently spread it across the entire genital area, letting your hands linger. Let the warmth, the glide, and the increased awareness be part of the process, not just a setup for what's to come. Begin with slow, exploratory touches. Think of this as a massage, not a sprint. Notice which angles, pressures, and rhythms feel best. Pause when you want to breathe deeply and allow yourself to enjoy without focusing solely on climax. This might feel unfamiliar at first, but once you adapt, you'll find it opens a door to deeper satisfaction than you've felt in years. And speaking of unlocking more pleasure, there's one often overlooked factor that can transform your experience even further, and it has everything to do with the way you position your body. Fourth, let's discuss why positioning matters more than you think. Most men never consider how their posture or position might affect their experience. They think that pleasure is all about the hands, the movement, the touch. But after 60, the way you position your body can be the difference between feeling fully engaged and barely feeling anything at all. I've seen men come into my office convinced that their sensitivity is gone, only to realize that the problem wasn't their nerves. It was the way they were sitting. When you're seated on a hard chair, leaning forward or hunching over, you may be unknowingly compressing the nerves and blood vessels in your pelvic region. That pressure can limit blood flow and reduce sensation, making everything feel muted. It's not that your body isn't capable, it's that you're creating physical roadblocks without even realizing it. Instead, try reclining with good support behind your back so that your pelvis stays open and relaxed. Some men find that lying on their side with a pillow between their knees allows them to feel more comfortable and connected. Others benefit from elevating their legs slightly, which improves circulation and takes pressure off the lower back. There are also supportive tools designed for this stage of life: warming sleeves, textured aids, or soft materials that provide stimulation without excessive force. I tell my patients to think of these in the same way they'd think about wearing reading glasses or using a supportive chair. It's not about weakness, it's about working with your body instead of against it. Small changes in positioning can make a big difference in how you experience pleasure, often more than speed or technique alone. And when you combine the right position with the adapted approach we discussed earlier, you give your body every chance to respond at its best. But technique and position are only part of the story. The real breakthrough often comes when you change something less obvious, not how you move your body, but how you think about the entire experience. And that's where we're heading next. Fifth, let's talk about shifting your mindset. One of the biggest changes I see in men after 60 has nothing to do with blood flow or hormones. It's about mindset. Too many men approach self-pleasure with the same mental script they had decades ago, that it's about performance, speed, and reaching the finish line as quickly as possible. But the truth is, after 60, the most fulfilling experiences come when you let go of those old rules. I've had patients tell me they feel frustrated if they don't climax, or if it takes longer than it used to. They see this as a sign of decline, when in reality it's just a different rhythm. Your body is asking you to slow down, to notice the smaller details, to find pleasure in the process instead of racing toward the end. When you release that pressure to perform, you also release the tension that shuts pleasure down. Self-pleasure at this stage of life becomes less about proving something and more about connecting, about exploring what feels good now, in this moment, with the body you have today. It's about giving yourself permission to pause, to change direction, or even to stop entirely if you feel satisfied before orgasm. That's not failure, that's awareness. And here's something most men don't realize. Your emotional state plays a direct role in your physical response. Anxiety, frustration, or self-criticism can block the very pathways that create arousal. But when you approach self-touch with curiosity, patience, and self-respect, you create the conditions for your body to respond more fully. The goal is to shift from performance mode to connection mode. And when that shift happens, you'll often find that your experiences become richer, more satisfying, and more meaningful than they were in your youth. But even with the right mindset, there are times when changes in your body signal something more serious. And knowing when to seek help can make all the difference. That's exactly what we'll talk about next. Sixth, let's discuss when to seek medical help. Even when you do everything right, you slow down, you adapt your technique, you choose the right position, you shift your mindset, there are times when your body may be telling you it needs professional attention. And ignoring those signals can allow a small, easily treated issue to turn into something far more difficult to manage. I tell my patients all the time, the smartest, strongest men are the ones who know when to ask for help. If you experience persistent pain or discomfort during or after self-touch, it's worth paying attention to. A mild burning sensation, unusual dryness, or lingering soreness that doesn't improve with lubrication and gentler technique can point to inflammation, infection, or irritation of the delicate tissues. These are usually treatable, but the longer they go unaddressed, the more likely they are to cause ongoing problems. Sudden or significant numbness is another warning sign. It's true that sensation can gradually fade with age, but if you notice a sharp drop or a dead zone of feeling, it could mean there's a nerve issue that needs to be evaluated early. The sooner you act, the better your chances of protecting your sensitivity. If you find yourself unable to get or maintain an erection, even in calm, private, and relaxed settings, it's not a sign that you've lost your masculinity. It's often a vascular or hormonal issue, both of which can be managed once properly diagnosed. And finally, don't ignore emotional distress linked to self-care. Feelings of shame, anxiety, or frustration can interfere with sexual function just as much as physical problems. Talking to a doctor can help you address both sides, the physical and the emotional. When you recognize these signs and take action, you're not giving up control, you're taking it back. And speaking of control, there's one final perspective that can completely change the way you view self-pleasure after 60, making it not only safe but deeply rewarding. And that's where we'll go next. Seventh, let's look at the final takeaway. After 60, self-pleasure is no longer just a physical act, it's a dialogue between you and your body. It's an opportunity to listen more closely, to respond with care, and to honor the changes you've lived through instead of resisting them. Too many men approach this stage of life with a sense of loss, convinced that pleasure must inevitably fade. But the truth is, it doesn't have to. In fact, for many men, pleasure after 60 becomes deeper, more mindful, and more connected than it ever was before. When you loosen your grip, both physically and mentally, you remove barriers that have been quietly dulling your experience. When you slow your pace, you give your nerves and your blood vessels the time they need to respond fully. When you choose comfort over performance, you create space for sensations to build naturally, without pressure or strain. And when you let go of outdated definitions of success, you open the door to new kinds of satisfaction, ones that don't depend solely on climax, but on the quality of the journey itself. This isn't about going back to the way things were in your 20s. It's about moving forward into a phase where pleasure is supported by wisdom, patience, and self-awareness. Your body is not broken, it's evolving, and you deserve to evolve with it. Every adjustment you make, from technique to mindset, is an investment in your long-term sexual health and your confidence. You are teaching yourself how to thrive in the body you have now. And that's a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life. But there's one more thing you need to know. Even with the right technique, there's a habit during self-touch that can quietly affect your prostate health, especially if you do it regularly. Most men don't realize it until it's too late. And in the conclusion, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and how to protect yourself. In conclusion, if there's one message I hope you take away from this, it's that pleasure after 60 is not only possible, it can be richer, more meaningful, and more satisfying than you ever imagined. Over the years, I've sat with countless men who came in worried, convinced that their best days were behind them. I've watched their expressions change as they learned that their bodies weren't failing, they were simply asking for a new approach. You've heard how your body changes with age, why old habits might not serve you anymore, and how a few simple adjustments in technique, pace, positioning, and mindset can open the door to a completely different experience. You now know the warning signs that tell you it's time to see a doctor. And you've seen that seeking help isn't weakness, it's taking control of your health. The truth is, you've earned the right to enjoy this stage of life without pressure, without shame, and without fear. Your body is still capable of pleasure, connection, and intimacy. It simply thrives under new rules. So, take the time, make the adjustments, give yourself permission to explore in a way that honors who you are now. And before we end, remember what I promised you. There's one often overlooked habit during self-touch that can quietly affect your prostate health. It's something most men never think about, but it can make all the difference. Let's talk about it right now.